let's go back to the stress physiology because I think that's such an interesting topic, man. This ties into gut health. So, was it like 80% of your immune system lies within the gut?
Hmm.
So, if you're, not looking after your gut health because you're under chronic stress or you've got all this stress that you're not dealing with turns into chronic stress, then that can suppress your immune system, which then has an impact on so many other physiological factors in the body. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, shit, that's a lot to unpack, but you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. And most of the time when people get gut issues, they go to somebody and they run a bunch of expensive tests that they don't actually need to run, and they prescribe them a bunch of supplements they don't actually need. Um, I always assume that if somebody comes to me with a gut issue, most of the protocols that I would use as far as supplements, nutraceuticals, and food, it pretty much works on anything, whether you have something or not, or whatever that thing is. So I would rather let's try this for 12 weeks, and if you're not significantly better, then we'll order $700, $800 worth of testing and see exactly what it is, and if I need to refer you out to somebody that like a doctor, somebody who specializes in gut health. But what I find is the majority of the time, if I can get your brain to calm down and get you out of a chronically sympathetic state, a lot of your gut issues go away. If I get you to chew your food like an adult, a lot of your issues go away. If I get
That's
you to,
such a simple one, man. It's so
yeah,
simple, dude. But like people think they're like, well, that's stupid. Like that's way
it's
too
too
easy.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Why is it so important that people actually chew their fucking food properly?
So,
Like what happens at a base level in the gut?
okay, so
Or actually, let's start from the start, from plate.
from the plate. Okay, so well, the first thing is you look at that first stage, that stage of your brain and its interpretation of the food. So you've got the smell, sight, touch, texture, all of these things can have a massive impact on how that food is then regulated downstream. So you have that. The secondary thing is mechanical and chemical digestion. So a big overarching theme of digestion assimilation is surface area. So if you were to pull your intestines out, if you cut them and like split them down and then stretch them out, it would have the same surface area of a doubles regulation tennis court. So that's massive. Like I don't suggest anybody do that. That's probably not a good idea. But um,
Please don't do it to someone else either.
yeah, don't do so. I actually years ago, a friend of mine was a cop, and he sent me a picture. Some dude had been on meth for like 5 or 6 days, and when he showed up, the guy had surgically cut his stomach and was pulling his intestines out, and they had to
Oh, what the
handcuff him.
fuck?
They had to handcuff him with his intestines just laying out until the guys could get there to stabilize him to take and put his fucking intestines back in, which is pretty wild.
That's crazy, bro.
So I don't know, maybe he read that in a textbook and wanted to test it out. I don't know, but
Yeah, don't do meth, kids.
don't do meth. Um, so to increase surface area, you obviously you already have the equipment to do it, but the secondary thing you have to do is you have to break food down in the smallest pieces possible, which means initially it's mechanical digestion by mastication. You need to chew your food until it's a semi-liquid state. And you also need to have the digestive enzymes to do it as well. So you have to have enough gastric juices, hydrochloric acid in the stomach, pepsin, you need enough pancreatic enzymes, enough bile acids. All of this stuff is really important to continue breaking down proteins into single amino acids or di and tripeptides. You need to be able to break sugars down into monosaccharides. You need to be able to break all this stuff down. If you have a lot of stress and you have poor metabolic flexibility, there's a good chance that your mitochondria don't have enough available energy to make those gastric juices. So the more ramped up you get and the more anaerobic you get, and the less ATP you're making, your body starts prioritizing that ATP for survival. So it's Bruce Ames' triage theory. So in a case of some type of deficiency, whether that's a nutrient deficiency or stress causing some type of substrate deficiency like ATP, your body's going to prioritize short-term survival over long-term needs. So digestion is not that important to your body if a lion jumps out at you. So if you are running life with a monkey on your back all the time, the body is going to prioritize that stress response, which is then going to cause a desensitization or down regulation of creating gastric juices. So chewing your food effectively is good, and then possibly even taking a digestive enzyme for a while. A good comprehensive blend that has the hydrochloric acid, pepsin, pancreatic enzymes, oxbol, all that stuff to give a little bit of support. If you give it a little bit of support, you get more nutrients in. stop chronically dieting, stop over exercising, get more sleep, start doing some of that hippie yin shit like journaling and headspace or whatever,
Meditation and shit.
meditation and shit, which I'm a big fan of. Start taking that stuff more seriously, and then your body won't have a problem breaking things down. And I find that if you just calm the brain down, chew your food like an adult, take a good digestive enzyme for a little bit of time, in a lot of cases, probably 95% of the gut issues I see just go away mysteriously. Food intolerances go away, immune system issues go away, diarrhea, constipation, that stuff goes away.
Yeah, man. Yeah, just to echo what you said and tie into that as well is like, when you're sitting down for a meal, like turn your fucking phone off. Like stop working and actually pay attention to the meal. Take in,
Yeah.
what you see, what you smell, what you can taste because, that's essentially prepping your body to eat. As you said, it's producing certain enzymes, your mouth's producing saliva, so that you can start breaking down that food into its smaller pieces.
Yep.
Now, what are some tools that people can use to actually get into the moment and slow the fuck down so they can actually digest, absorb, and assimilate those nutrients? Because, as you said, if you're in this sympathetic state where you're on your phone whilst you're eating, you're not paying attention to your food, you're not chewing properly, then that's going to have a flow-on effect downstream. You're not going to be able to break down those foods. They're going to stay in your stomach, in your intestine for a lot longer, and potentially you're missing out on a heap of nutrients and some energy as well via
Mm.
calories. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
mean, yeah, yeah, and the thing is, the longer, so let's say you have a long-term low energy availability, and your body is starting to tone down things like thyroid conversion. It's starting to tone down some gastric juices. That can lead to a level of constipation. And being sympathetic will actually make your anus will stay in a contracted state. So it's going to be harder and harder to push poo out, and you start losing peristalsis. If your neurotransmitters start to get wonky and you start losing serotonin and melatonin in the gut, you can't really push. You have a reduced ability to push poo out, right? So anytime that fecal matter stays in your intestines, people need to understand that when you're detoxifying things and you're constantly detoxifying things around the clock, part of that is getting that into the gut and then pooing it out. Well, if the longer it sits in the gut, there's a high chance, especially if you had dysbiosis, that you could uncouple those detox toxins and then recirculate them through the enterohepatic portal back through the liver, which then causes the liver to get sluggish. So then you might have a slowed down ability to detoxify because the liver's just working too hard. It's like a single mom working three jobs and she can't keep up. So you got to treat your liver right. And a lot of people have nutrient deficiencies where they can't detox fast enough anyways, and especially if you're in a fat loss diet. So that type of stuff can cause a long-term chronic fatigue. It can cause inability to recover from workouts, poor sleep, and then that compounds the stress. So that, and you can cause over absorption of certain things you're not supposed to, like food particles that aren't broken down enough, and that causes immune system dysregulation that then affects cortisol and histamine release, which then suppresses your immune system. So it gets harder and harder to fight this stuff, and then you end up with a long-term, low-grade chronic illness where you're just kind of sick all the time. You're always got the sniffles and the coughs and feeling run down, and I just wish I just get fucking sick. If I just get sick and get it over with. And then the minute they de-stress, they end up getting sick. They go on holiday and they're sick as shit for 3 days, and then they feel amazing. But yeah,
Hmm.
so low thyroid, low serotonin,
So,
that can
so
cause
that
issues.
So I was going to say, like so if people aren't chewing their food properly, it's going to stay in the digestive system, in the digestive tract for a lot longer.
Mm.
Could potentially increase intestinal permeability, which then can lead to bacterial overgrowth, right?
Yeah, so if you have, people call it leaky gut or intestinal permeability, whatever they want. Some people get really frothy if you say leaky gut. For me, it's the same thing. But
Whatever, yeah.
yeah, if you're not getting these particles down, they end up in your bloodstream. And when they get in the bloodstream, the immune system sees that and it goes, okay, you're not supposed to be here. You're not food and you're not manufactured by the body. So I'm going to start attacking you. And then your immune system gets hypervigilant and you start getting food intolerances. And then over time, the hypothalamus will react by creating more cortisol to manage all this inflammation that's been induced by the immune system, and eventually it just suppresses the immune system to the point where now you can't fight the stuff. So you're constantly bloated and gassy, undigested food in the stool, and everything just gets worse. And then, like you said, you can get SIBO because some of the stuff isn't getting absorbed, and when it gets into the later stages of the small intestine, the bacteria are like, oh great, we've got something to ferment, we got something to eat, and then the bacteria starts to get out of control, and your immune system's suppressed, so it can't keep it under control, and then you start getting a little lower bowel pain. And then you go to a naturopath, hippie foo-foo person. They put you on a ketogenic diet and give you like $2,000 worth of worthless supplements that you don't need, which is it'll fix it, but you'll feel horrible, and you'll it's not great for training or health. But yeah, so many things can happen, but it all starts here, and it starts here. So you ask strategies. The first thing I tell people is if you were sitting with your grandmother or your mom and you were eating a meal and they were cutting up your steak for you, how would they cut it up? And they cut it up in tiny little bites. So if you just cut your food into tinier bites, it's a lot easier to chew it more effectively because you don't have to chew it as much. Um, like if you go out with your bros and you go for a steak dinner, everyone will buy 400-gram rump and they'll see if they can swallow the damn thing in 3 bites. Like there's no trophies for deep throating a fucking steak, you know.